Hey everyone, it's Angus here. This is a much shorter version. I've made a half-hour version where I try and go into a little bit more detail for each of the bots. But the very quick summary is I've opened up quite a few different bots. I've opened up 9 so far on Pionex just to see how they all compare, just to see how side by side, with as little intervention from me as possible. The minimum amount invested is, I try and always invest around about $100 or whatever the closest minimum is, and just to see how they all perform. So without going into too much detail, this one here is a futures grid. It's a 10x long. It's been active for 7 days, and this is just one that I've opened. It's got 33 grids. It's got a fairly narrow range. You can see if I go to parameters, I've put a stop loss on this one just to see how it'll perform with a stop loss. The profit per grid is set to about 0.5%. And if I look at the overview, I want to find transactions. So you can see here. So it's saying that so far over the last 7 days, I've had 10 transactions, which is averaging about 1.25 transactions a day. So that's roughly how that bot is set up, and it's pretty much out of the box. So very simple, and you can see it's going down at the moment. Bitcoin's a little bit all over the place. I would have bought this slightly too high, but I wanted to see how this one performed. And you can see here the most important thing is where I'm going to get liquidated. So I'm going to get liquidated at 22,000. So the $200 that I have is at risk if it gets as low as 22 grand. But you can see that I did have a stop loss on it for around about 27.5. So if it gets below that, I'll exit and retain some of my capital to reinvest. BTC USD Futures Grid's a 15x long. I opened that one earlier. I opened that one about 10 days ago. The investment in that one is $100 worth. The grid profit that it's banked is 5.8%. Its open orders at the moment are down 30%, and it's saying that if I leave this running for a year, I'll probably be down 100% overall if Bitcoin price doesn't turn around and change. These ones here I've been running for a little bit longer, so I would have bought these ones at a much better price. These ones here I bought quite high, like very much speculating that Bitcoin will turn around and go up. You can see that I've banked some profit, but at the moment it must be having a bit of a pullback. This one here, you can see on the chart on the right, obviously bought it. It's fallen since I bought it. This next one, BTC USDT leverage grid. So this is a 5x leverage grid. It's not a futures grid. It's just a 5x Bitcoin grid. And you can see that this one here, again, I had a little bit of a dip at the start, and then it's been pretty much horizontal ever since. So this one here is, as I said, 5x leverage, 5 times leverage, which means that my $200 is roughly $1,000 worth of this equivalent coin. And it's saying that I will possibly end up with around 130% at the end of the year if the current trend continues. And it's highly unlikely. Depends what happens. If Bitcoin shoots up, that'll go up much higher. If Bitcoin shoots back down, that'll come down much lower. But it's not too bad. For roughly 2 months, I've already banked 26%. So that's not bad. And there's only a negative 3% in my open orders. So if I close this grid today, I'd bank around 23%, which I'm reasonably happy with. This one here is Ethereum. So I just thought, I've got all these Bitcoin grids. I'll just try one with Ether. And you can see that this one's not performing. Well, it's performing well. Like, it's saying that I'd close out my year, given up to 260 days, I'd close out my year being up roughly 40%. I'd get to 56% if everything continues as it is. And so that's not too bad. But if you compare that to Bitcoin over the same period, so you can see 260 days, $160, $110. You can see at this one here, I'll be up roughly 88% if the trend continues as it is versus, roughly 56% for Ethereum. So you could probably do a lot better. You could definitely do a lot better if you pick more speculative coins. The whole idea behind this is I wanted to pick Bitcoin just to see how it would all compare. Infinity grid bots. So these bots here have a ceiling. So this bot ranges between 10,000 and 100,000. So, it's got a massive range. This one here doesn't have a ceiling. So it basically says, you bought in a particular price and we'll just keep moving the total grid up, as the price goes up. And so you can see with this one, it's saying that at the end of the year, I might average around 75% type return. for that Infinity Grid bot. The spot futures arbitrage bot hasn't done anything. You know, it wouldn't be something that I'd be overly excited about running again. You know, 260 days, same sort of period of time. I might end up with 3.4% at the end of the time period. A little bit the same with the DCA bot. This one probably do a little bit better if the stock price, if the coin price was continually falling. But again, you can see I'm up from 27%. I might end up 42%. You know, for year to date. You know, over the course of a year. Not bad, you know. If this was a stock portfolio, you'd be pretty happy with the 42% return year on year. But it's not, you know, it's not performing as well as the other grid bots. The lucky last is this BTC USDT grid bot, and this is one that I do fiddle with. So these other ones I very much sort of set and forget. You know, I've bought them and, you know, not tried to fiddle too much. This one here is a little bit different. You can see that I've renamed it, so it's a 1% profit per grid. And so if I show the parameters on this one, you can see that this one's trying to take profit between that 1% and 1.5% type mark. And it's trailing the others in performance quite significantly, which I find interesting. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying to research, you know, what's the best way to run grid bots. And there's not a whole lot you can put in them. Like I've been told that if you run a tighter range, you'll have more of your money in play, you know, on a more regular basis, is one theory. And you probably should run around about 0.5% profit per grid. And so if I go back up here, grid trading, this one here, so this one's the one that's performing, you know, very, very well. You can see here that I'm running it around about a 0.08. So this has got a very, very tiny take profit. You know, every time it ticks up and down, it grabs that profit. You can see that I've got, you know, 1,147 transactions. It's averaging around about 4.5 transactions per day. If I go down and look at this one here, which is the Infinity Grid bot, transactions around about 9 a day, 2,500, and the parameters of this one is around about 0.6% per grid. So it's interesting in that the 1% take profit per grid is performing pretty poorly, you know, around about 17%. There are reasons for that, but, you know, I did make a mistake at one stage, but it wouldn't affect it massively. Like, you know, it might add, you know, pretend it adds 10% to the value of this grid. It's still not going to be performing anywhere near as well as these other ones. So, you know, this 88%er and this 75%. And then, you know, of course, when you go and look up at one of these leveraged ones, you know, running at around 138%. So, you know, the leverage grid bots are interesting. If I click on this one and I go parameters, you can see that this is about a 0.5% take profit. So if I was to run this experiment again, I think what I'd probably do is I'd have something similar to this one, but I'd make sure that I'd do 2 of these 5x's. Like if I thought that I was at a good buy price, I'd open up 2 5x leverage grids. I'd only put a small amount of money in each, you know, $100 in each. You know, leverage is obviously, you know, a double-edged sword. But what I'd do is I'd do 2 at $100, and I'd have one so that one ran around about a 1% profit. I'd have one that would run around about a 0.5% profit. And then I actually then might open up a third one, you know, all exactly the same parameters. And all I'd be doing is adjusting I'd probably keep the price range the same, to be honest. I'd keep the price range the same. And all I'd do is I'd change the number of grids. And so I might actually do that. I might do that for the next one. BTC is a bit of a dodgy price at the moment, but at some stage, I think what I'll do is I'll open up 3 and I'll have all exactly the same parameters, except I'll do a 1% profit, I'll do a 0.5% profit, and then I might try and do a 0.05% profit, you know, something that's much, much narrower. So I think that would be interesting to see how that would perform. Parameters. Yeah, so see, this is down at 0.08. I might try 0.05, and so I think that's the next thing I'll do. I'll open up 3, and same parameters, and run them at these very small, you know, small, medium, and large slices, and just see what that does. Anyway, this was meant to be a much shorter video. Hopefully, it is. Has some information in it that the other one didn't. But it's you know, the gridbot journey has been interesting. At the moment, it looks a bit rubbish. Let's just go and have a quick look at Bitcoin. See what it's doing today. and so you can see if we've had a bit of a dip. So that's what's happening at the moment. Let me get rid of you just to zoom in a bit. And so for whatever reason, he's broken down below support. I'd say the support's probably around there. So Bitcoin's having a bit of a rough time at the moment. So it's not. I don't mind the MACD and the RSI. They look like they've both got a bit of value, but I think I'd want to wait for a bit of a turnaround before opening up 3 more bots. The $100 a pop. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope that was useful. Bye.